Hello and welcome to A Life of Creation. My name is Chad. I'm the host of this channel. If you like what you've seen so far, please like and subscribe and click the notification button so you know when I release new content. Today I'm excited because we are talking to Jered Scott, who is probably one of the best concert photographers I know. He's done a lot, and we are going to ask him the 10 questions. So let's hear his answers. Just use an overlay. Well, welcome to A Life of Creation. I'm here with Jered Scott, and he is answering the 10 questions. So let's jump into it. Question one. What does it mean to you to live a life of creation?
I think living that life just means making stuff that you want to make. I think like creation could look different for everyone. And I think when we get hung up on like, do I know how to do it right? Or am I doing it the way that someone wants me to do it? Whatever I think like pulls away and it starts I guess like for I'm not a sports guy, but like a sports analogy would be like if you get paid to play a sport like baseball and then you make it all serious, it's like you're getting paid to play a game. Like
Right.
enjoy that you're so I think that's what creating is to me is like whatever the medium is, like, I think experiment and find what it is that you enjoy doing. Um,
Right.
and I think it's just about being like true to yourself then at that point. Like I create mainly photos and I create mainly music photos because that's like what I love.
Right.
So and then the style that I bring to almost all of it is influenced by my passions, like the kind of like cartoons and like video games I grew up on influence like my colors, like I loved things that were like really like vivid. Um and then like the energy of like punk rock music and stuff like that is like what I'm trying to capture, even if it's like a moodier, mellower band. Like I still
Yeah.
want to capture like energy and life, because it's like that's what I listen to all day. Like if I'm listening to music, it's packed with like that rawness, that like
Yeah.
just at you kind of thing. So to me, I'm just like that's what I'm into. Like that's what I'm gonna like do.
Yeah. It's amazing. I liked your baseball analogy because I just had, we did a men's breakfast at church just this last weekend, and we had a guy named Matt Luke come and speak to us, and he was a major league baseball player. He didn't have like a, you know, major big career or anything, but he shared a story. It was a rookie for the Dodgers,
Okay.
and he was like slumping hard, hitting, like just not hitting at all. And he was playing first base. And he said this was the year that like Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa were
Oh yeah.
doing their home runs. And he's like, Sosa's up, hits a single, is on first base with him, and he's just like, holy crap, Sammy Sosa's on first base with me, because he's rookie, he's kind of freaking out, not doing well. And he's like, Sosa just puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, dude, you got this. Just have some fun.
Yeah.
And he got teary eyed because it was just such a powerful moment for him. And
Somebody in that position being able to like comfort and remind you, right? Like to
right,
be like, it's a game. Like
Yeah.
just have
But
physical.
but it's like what you said. It's like you may be doing something, you get serious about it, but it's like still got to come back to going, this is something I love to do.
Yeah.
Have fun
Absolutely.
with it.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that's what you do. You know, you have fun with and you're hanging out with your friends and it's just like
Yep.
you figure out a way to capture it well. Question two. I believe that everyone is made to create. I think it's one of our purposes as human beings. There's the glamorous side of creation, which is like artists, musicians, and creative people. But I think there's a lot of value in what's considered the workman's pr approach. So maybe something not as creative. Um, I think there's value to the workman's approach to creation as well. What are areas you see the value in creation but are often underrated or not even acknowledged as creation?
I think like when it comes to photography, there's a lot that goes into the before and after that whether they are glamorous or not are part of the process,
Right.
like gear prep, like file handling, like storage, you know, um, that I think clients, fans, whatever, like don't think about. Like they think that, it's walking up, taking a picture, it's done. And it's just like there's a lot to it. Like,
Yeah.
to and it's also research. Like, whether it's intentional research or just like being able to access those like memories and going back at times and being like, what does this feel like? Oh, this feels like this. Okay, then if this feels like that, or if I liked what that looked like, I can maybe capture it this way. So then you go and you try to like create in that setting or that moment. And that's a big part of it. But then when you leave and you go back and you're sitting at your computer, it's like, okay, now I got to do like the rest of this creative process. Like, first of all, it was like a color photo, and in my head, I visualized it black and white. So, like, I've got to change that. Now, are like, the things hitting the same way that I wanted them to? Are they accented the same way that I wanted to? Like, do I need to crop in? Do I need to do this? It's like, I think that all of that kind of stuff is like a part of it. And then it's
Yeah.
trying to be mindful of like, where am I sharing this? Like, is this going to stay hidden until the right day? Am I putting it on social media? Like, is it going to be readable on somebody's smartphone? Like, so it's trying to think about that kind of stuff too. So I think I think that's all the stuff to me that's just like the unfun side of it, but it's like almost equally as important. And, it can't
Yeah.
be like ignored because you can go take a cool photo, but if you don't know like how to ensure that it's safely backed up, like you may lose it and never get to come back,
Right.
like
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
File management is a thing.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I learned that the hard way with a small portable drive a few years ago. I was carrying it real loose on top of my laptop to move locations in the house, and it just slid right off and smacked on the ground, and I lost a summer's worth of content.
Ouch.
Yeah, yeah. Oh well.
I'm like, I feel like I need to get up and back up something right now.
To feel better, to bring balance to the force.
Oh man. Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there at some point.
Yeah. Right. Thankfully I've only lost a few things in 16 years. So I'm all
That's
right.
not bad. Yeah, I actually recently, over I think the last couple years, I took some of my old hard drives and put them on new hard drives because I was like thinking
Yep.
like, oh,
Yep.
these things could possibly just not work again.
Oh, absolutely. I had mirrors of hard drives while I would do things. And I've I've had it where I like took the one that was my go-to and I went to plug it in and it won't mount. And so then I go to the other one and it won't mount for a while, but eventually does. And I'm like, and pull everything off of there
Yeah.
and it still exists, but
Right.
who knows?
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. I had a IT guy from work. I don't think he's actually done it yet. He's had like some of my old hard drives for years at this point.
Ah,
So I'm like, because I just took like old laptop ones. I'm like, take my hard drives, put it on this hard drive.
yeah.
Because
Yep.
I don't want these laptops. I want to recycle them.
Right.
But
But I need what's on it.
yeah,
Yep.
I think because I don't know. I haven't opened it in so long.
Right. Exactly. It's better to have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of work on all in all creations that, the audience doesn't see.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the magic actually happens there.
Yeah. And I again, I think it just like, I think it's something we learn through experience in the beginning, right? Trial and error. And then at some point, you have to move into a place where like you trust your intuition. And so, like, I like when I go and shoot shows, I show up with like three lenses and it's trying to think through before I leave the house, like, what do I want? Versus I'm
Right.
going to bring my entire Pelican case and have access to 10 lenses. And
Right.
it's like, no, I don't want that. Like, it's annoying, but it's also like a fun challenge to like leave the house and then be limited.
Right.
And here are my tools for the night. What am I going to craft with this?
Yeah.
And you just got to trust yourself, you know? So,
Yeah. I'm to the point of how little can I bring? Because I don't want to carry it all
oh,
night.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I get mad when I bring three lenses and then end up using two. I'm like, I could have left one.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you familiar with the band Ren Collective?
Yeah, yeah,
I went and shot them one time, and I brought like several lenses because I'm like, I don't know what it's gonna be like,
sure.
and I brought the my works camera, the Canon R5, so it's a
Yeah,
different mount.
yep,
So I brought all my lenses, brought that camera. I forgot to grab the adapter,
yep,
so I'm like, I'm shooting the kit lens tonight,
yep.
and it was
See,
great. It was totally fine.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm like, now I'm lugging around a lot of gear.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I mean, again, it's like if I would do better prep, then maybe the results would be better, right? Like I'd catch, oh, that lens is failing or it's straight up broken.
Right,
But sometimes you realize it late. You
right,
realize it at the festival in a different state, and you're like, guess I'm shooting with two lenses today in
right,
the trip. And sometimes being forced into that box allows you to just create something you wouldn't
right.
have otherwise. So
Number three, do you believe you need to be passionate about what you create?
I think I've gone through phases with that. I think in the beginning I was like a diehard, like purist, like I gotta be interested in my subject, otherwise sucks. Uh, then I learned what it's like to not have work and to not make money, trying to do the things that you care about or love or whatever. And so then I think learned I can love that. I can get into that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess to me, it's important to be passionate about the stuff that you want to like, I don't know, like I guess you're creating no matter what. So the stuff that's like a more of like a passion project or like important to you, like, yeah, you got to be passionate about it.
Right,
Like you have to have interest in it. And then I think it's okay time to time to just switch into, all right, I'm going to work for a little bit. Like this job is me just working.
yeah,
And it is okay to use my skill set to make a living.
right,
Um, and go do that job today. But to make stuff that like I'm proud of, uh, like I'm always passionate about that work.
Right.
And that's the stuff that I can't wait to share with people, and the stuff that I've been paid sometimes well to do that I don't care about other than the client getting it. Nobody else ever sees it because I'm just
Right.
kind of like, just whatever, man.
Yeah.
So
I paid my bills.
yeah, and I think like when I'm passionate, and this is maybe just me because of how I am, but like when I'm passionate, I want to problem solve. I want to fix things. I want to make stuff work. And when I'm just doing it for the dollar, like I'm giving it just enough to like get by,
Right.
just enough to like collect that paycheck.
Right.
And so when things don't go smoothly, I'm quick to be like frustrated and like huffy and all that kind of stuff, you know?
Right.
So I think being passionate about what you're working on has many benefits.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, I'm a corporate photographer. I shoot, 9 to 5 pretty much every day.
Yeah,
I don't care about all of it,
right.
you know.
That's okay.
Um, and I think it is okay to not be passionate all the time.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, if it's something that you care about and are wanting to present to people, I think people would know if it's not authentic.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
authenticity comes from the passion.
Yeah. And again, I think sometimes we can find our way to passion. Sometimes we
Yeah,
don't arrive there right away. But if you're at least open to it, I think we
right.
can sometimes find it along the way. So,
Yeah. You just
yeah,
need the encouragement to get going sometimes.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that a lot. Like once I get rolling, I'm into it, but it's
Yes.
hard to
Yeah.
get going.
Yeah. Once I get out of bed, let's go.
Question 4. I don't think your creation has to be good to grow from it. Um, I'm certainly not good at everything. Uh, what are some things you create that might not be considered great, but something that you still gain value from the creation? And then, do you have words of encouragement for those who get discouraged when their creations fall short of their expectations?
Things that I create. Um, yeah, I mean, like when I was growing up, I really liked drawing. Um, and I still do. Like I like to draw with my kids. And as soon as I finish something, I realize like, oh, this isn't good, or I don't like at the end of the day, I like it. But I like the process.
Right.
I like having fun. I like, sharing that time and space with my kids. Um, when it comes to like other kinds of creating, like I'm not technically proficient with video, but I like the process. I like utilizing what I know about photography in a video setting. And a lot of what I do, I feel like, yeah, it probably doesn't work out great. But because it's like a new area, I feel like it stretches. And I feel like it brings me back to a place where I can like learn every time that I set out to do something. Even if all I'm learning is like how to do that more efficiently, like, I feel like I can learn from it. And so even when those kind of things aren't maybe usable for somebody else, I feel like I'm gaining from that.
Right.
I'm gaining experience points or whatever it is.
Right.
Um, and for people who get discouraged, uh, I would say, like, number one, if you have a vision, like, my first thing is like consider yourself lucky that you have vision. Like, I think a lot of people don't have vision. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't a lot of times. Like, there are very few projects in my entire career where I had an idea and set out to like accomplish that goal. I think for me, a lot of the time it was winging it. And that's just how I liked doing things.
Right.
So if you have vision, like that's rad.
Yeah.
Um, and if your vision doesn't fully work out or land the way that you want to, then like I think you try to learn from the experience. And like I feel like I learned enough, and it's in hindsight, right? Like you leave the shoot, you realize, oh, that's why this photo doesn't land. Like
Right.
this wasn't technically right. I need to work on my technical skills. Or they weren't into the idea because I didn't communicate it well. Like when I went in the studio with Motion City and Mark, my concept was these guys are all kind of funny. They're all kind of goofy. So I wanted to take a goofy photo where all the guys in the band were wearing their headphones, like that they were listening to a mix, and that they were all either like so proud of themselves or like so pumped by what they were listening to that they were all like, yeah, like, like freaking out. And I wanted Mark in the foreground of the photo holding all of the inputs in his hand so
Hmm.
that they're not, he's showing the, viewer, they're
Right.
not listening to anything like
Right.
these guys. But I was so nervous to pitch the idea that it came across just like real flat. They didn't understand. They didn't seem into it. They asked what other ideas I had, and I came with none because I was so into that idea. So I was trying to think of things on the fly, and we were running out of time, and we defaulted. And like, I was just like, this is all that I got. Like, let's just do it. And they were like reluctant, and they did it. And the photo is not that great. Like, it's cool that it documented all of them.
Right.
Like, it doesn't communicate what I was trying to communicate. And I didn't know that. I mean, again, I was like a year and a half or something into my career. And before my career, I wasn't taking art classes. I
Right.
wasn't somebody's intern or something. Like I was self-taught on the job from day one. And so it was like going home, editing the photos and looking and being like, why don't I like this? And being like, oh, it's because I wasn't confident in the
Right.
delivery. Like
Right.
I didn't help them see the vision. I didn't get them to trust me. And because of that, I failed. I missed it. And
Right.
so I learned like A, always have backup ideas. B, if you believe in something, like deliver it with some conviction,
Right.
like stand behind it. And I've done that on a number of projects since. And I would say with almost 100% success rate, like every time that I'm like, this is what I want to do, this is going to be cool. Like they believe me
Right.
and we can do it. And it's cool. Like, you know, um, so I'd say like trust yourself in those things. So go back, investigate what you think didn't work and learn from it.
Yeah.
And don't give up just because you miss. Like I think it was Michael Scott that said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's such
Uh,
a good quote.
yes. I'm glad that he came up with it.
Right.
Uh, so I think it's that. And I think the other part of maybe the advice is like surround yourself with a community and get real with that community. Like, and by that, I mean, like, if you're a photographer, surround yourself with some other photographers so you can bounce ideas off them, so you can show them work and get real, honest feedback. Like, that I think I was always looking for that, and I had a few friends that I would go to, and a couple of them feel like they would only respond with like a positive. They'd be like, "Cool," and I'm just like, "No, no, I want more. Like, if you don't like it, tell me what you don't like about it. I want to grow. I want to be challenged. I want to be stretched. Like, I want to get better." And if you're just doing everything on your own, I think it is extremely difficult to grow in those ways. But if you have community that you trust, that you know they're giving you feedback from a good place, then I think it can really push and help, you become better and see things, that either you're afraid to admit or that you're like unaware of, and having other people point that out can definitely help you like skip ahead in
Right.
growth, um I think there were a number of times I took like photos in a setting I was unfamiliar with, and then in post couldn't get the edit there. And I have one older friend who I looked up to like a mentor, even though he like wasn't.
Right.
And but I knew I could like send stuff like that, and I'd send him the photo, and I'd be like, dude, I can't get this edit. And a few minutes later, he'd send the photo back, and it would be dialed, and I'd be like, yes, okay, that's it. Okay, what'd you do? And he would type, back to me. He'd be like, learn how to edit your photos. And I'd be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I will. I will. But like, tell me, like, what were the settings? What'd you do? And he's like, learn how to edit your photos. And I was so frustrated because, you just want like the cheat code.
Right.
But by him showing me it's possible and then not giving me the answer, I sat and I tinkered and I pushed and I played and I got real close. And so, yeah, back then I didn't know how to get all the way there, but I got it really close and I was really happy with that. And then I was able to do that with another friend when he had that kind of problem. He
Right.
sent a photo to me that he couldn't do, that he couldn't get to look right. And I edited it really quick, sent it back to him. And he was like, how'd you do that? What did you do? And I said, learn how to edit your photo. Um, so having community that you can trust is like super valuable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned editing because I feel like anytime I see a photo, I can be like, "That's Jered Scott," because you have
all
a
the time,
style. Yeah,
right?
and
Yeah,
I'm like, I've seen people try and replicate that. I mean, I'm sure I've tried to replicate it because it's just a look and it's a vibe, like you said, and no one has quite mastered it. I think, but it made your photos always pop out to me. So I love that you had like this kind of like a editing style that was unique to you.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. And again, that's what we're like, back to like being passionate and stuff. It's like passion informs those decisions. Like
Yeah,
when it's stuff that I care about, like you're not going to see it if I don't like it.
right,
And if I'm passionate about it, I'm going to work it and work it and work it until I like it. And then you're going to see it.
right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, you did a good job on it.
thank you.
All right, number five. Not all creators would consider themselves artistic. Do you believe you have to be artistic to live a life of creation?
Absolutely not. Because I am one of those that does not necessarily consider myself artistic.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like maybe it's our generation, like growing up in like the 80s, 90s, and like the shows we watched, you know, our comedy heroes like Conan O'Brien are like self-deprecating, so we are as well. But like I feel like I can explain away a lot to make it fit that narrative that I'm not artistic, like, oh, my editing style. Oh, well, that's just because like I learned this thing from this guy and like I learned this and then I built this preset and I've just like refined it over time. Like to
right,
me, I'm like, that's just technical. And to somebody else, it's like, oh, that's art. Like you're that's just like a painter choosing a certain color
right,
palette to work with. Like I remember back in the 2010 era or whatever, I had a friend in a band point out something about how everybody's photos were getting like split toned, and they were like kind of purpley tinted or greenish tinted. And he was just like, this is a fad that years from now people are going to look back on and it's going to feel really dated. And I was like, you're right. Like, this is not something that's going to hold up forever. And I just, I think before then and then especially after then, I was just like, I want photos to look like real color or black and white. Like blacks to be black, whites to be white. Like, find it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think like for me, I'm just I try like I don't think I think through the art side of things. Like I start to try to like frame something that I find interesting. Um, I try to utilize some of the things that are technical that I've learned along the ways, like, oh, the rule of thirds, and maybe putting something in a point of interest, and what are leading lines. And sometimes, I guess, I think about those, but I think it's just like a lot of like, just trust myself and capture what's happening in these moments, on stage, at a wedding, whatever. And then you go back and you edit it. And when it's done, it's at that point that I'm like, oh, there's like some art involved here. But like, I don't think about it through the process. So that's why I say, like, I don't think you have to be artistic to create.
No.
It can be something that's found along the way, or that somebody else sees art in that you may only see as like, oh, well, I was just like putting these colors on this canvas and this weird way. And somebody else is like, it blows my mind, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think you have I mean, I think we hit on this earlier. I picked up a camera too just to document things. I
Yeah.
wasn't I'm going to be an artist.
Right.
I always think, when I hear artist, I just think of some pretentious person who is going to try and sell me on this idea that they created something.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's just
And
me.
right. No, I feel that. I think sometimes it's in mediums that we don't understand.
But yeah, exactly.
Like when I look at paintings and stuff, sometimes I'm like, how much did somebody say that painting is selling for? $10,000. I'm like, I could have done that. But but I've had like arty friends go, but you didn't do it.
Right.
And there's a part of it that I go, I get it. And a part of it where I'm like, that's just a weird response. Um, but
It's
yeah,
like,
I
yeah,
think it's different for all of us.
yeah. All right, number six. Is there an experience or a time in your life where you realized you were a creator?
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess at the beginning of all of like this photo career stuff, like realizing this thing that I was doing for fun with like my college buddies and like classmates and roommates was paying some bills and taking me places like around the country and things like that. I realized like, oh, I am creating something and people are interested in it. Like bands are using it for merch. Fans want to buy prints, magazines want to use it in stories. And so that was when I think stepped into this place of like, oh, I am this. Like I am a artist or a creator or a professional. Uh, and then I feel like I had a second wave of that more recently. A couple years ago, I was working on a project that I was doing some light photo on, but I was more project managing and creative directing the whole thing. And we were doing a we were at a part in the project where we were doing a series of videos, and we had a roadmap from the beginning of like which video was going to be first, second, third, fourth. And we changed the concept of, I think, what was supposed to be the third video. And I really believed in like, dude, this is what we need to do. This is going to be much better for the campaign. It's going to be funny. It's going to be memorable. Like, it's going to get people that you're sending it to like talking. This is what we need to do. And I felt really strongly that it needed to also lead the campaign. And the client was like, wait, what? They were confused about that. And while we were talking about it, I could feel that I was like dancing around it. And so I decided to like trust myself. Like, I am creating this overall like project for these guys. They came to me because they trusted me. And so I was like, I'm just going to embrace that, and was able to like stop going, I really think maybe we should. And I was just like, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna change what I said. I don't think we should do this. I know we should do this. This is the right thing to do. And as soon as I did that, they changed their responses and they were like, okay, let's do it. And
Right.
so again, I think like that allowed me to see like I have a vision. I am working that vision. I need to like stand behind it. But all of that supports this idea of like I'm creating with them and for them. So
Right. And that was even, you probably had the realization that, you were used to being the photographer and now you're, ooh, I'm this. And you can were able to go, I am this,
yep.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, as creators on a journey, things change and we do different things. And I think there are multiple points in our lives where, that realization dawns on us that, okay, I do have some idea of what's going on, you know. And you, like you said, start trusting your instincts.
Yep.
Like your instincts are your instincts, and people start hiring you for your instincts.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. It's your
trust it.
instinct and your taste, right? Like
Yeah,
you get hired to do a project, then you better hope that they know your taste. and and some people are like, adaptable and they're like, oh, I can change and do this or that. And that again was the thing I learned. For me, I'm not. And it's
no,
not that I don't want to. It's just I'm kind of like, I don't know how to just like change. Like
right,
I remember a band at the very beginning of my career called me about I'd been in talks with them about doing their like album promos, and they were talking about what they wanted things to look like. And you'll remember this, but like the way that they were explaining things, like I understood. And so when he finished, I responded and I was like, I know what look you're talking about. I was like, what you're talking about is like a composite photo, like high gloss look that like is dominating alternative press right now. It was
right.
like
Dave
Dave.
Hill.
Yeah. And I told him, I was like, I don't work with lights, man. Like, I cannot do that. I don't know how, and I'm not interested in doing it. I was like, you're talking about Dave Hill. Like, you should either hit Dave Hill or one of these guys that's doing what Dave's doing, like in a way, up if that's what you want. I said, for me, I want to give you guys photos that when people are flipping through the pages of that magazine and they come across your album ad, it stands out as different than everything else that's in there right now. And they were like, yep, you're the right guy. Let's do that. And I was like, cool.
Yeah,
Great. Thanks. So, yeah, I think it's just like, you got to know your lane. And if your lane is adaptable and you can do all the things and stuff, like, sweet, do it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
But if you know your strong suit and your passion and what makes you excited, and that's going to produce better work. So like, stay in your lane, just do your thing.
yeah,
And if you don't want it, that's okay. Like,
yeah.
doesn't mean you're wrong. It's just not
Right.
the right.
Yeah. And there is something to be said about sometimes a customer and client, aren't compatible. So
Totally.
don't
Yeah.
worry about it. You'll
Yeah.
find another one.
Absolutely.
Um, Actually, I assisted Dave Hill twice,
Me too.
and
Yeah.
it was very interesting and cool to see him work. Like he had the
Totally.
whole thing all mapped out, and I'm just like he was one of my first introductions to I
Yep.
think Capture One,
Yes.
and I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
man, he is at a level I am not.
Right. And it's
It was
awesome, but it showed me right away, I don't want to be at that level. I do not want to do this stuff. Like
right.
it just wasn't interesting to me.
Yeah,
But I love his work. Like I
yeah,
love what he was doing. It was fantastic.
yeah. He did some crazy stuff. I hadn't thought about him in a long time. Yeah, he dominated for sure.
Very much.
All right, question 7. Was there a family member or friend encouraging you to pursue your passion for your creation?
I wouldn't say there was like one. Like when I got into music in high school and then tried pursuing like the whole band thing right out of high school, my parents were supportive, like and encouraging, and you know, like when I was young, they bought me a guitar and amp, and they would come to my shows and stuff like that. Um, so when I got into photography and I uh after I'd been taking some of those photos of my like first friends band or whatever for I think it was like at the end of that year, like maybe 6 months of doing photos. Like it was my birthday, and my dad had seen my interest and how I was always borrowing cameras. And he was like, we're going to buy you this Canon film camera, you know, like, and I just remember being excited about that, but also feeling like seen, right? Like that he
Mhm.
saw that I was into something.
Right.
Uh, and I feel like when I was finishing college and got into music photography, like my parents were never like, whoa, 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 you just got a degree in this other thing and now you're gonna go over it. Like you're what are you doing?
No.
They were just like, cool, go for it. Like keep going. And I think the fact that it all started for me in college was like a really weird place to stumble into that for me. Like being a little older, like some of my classmates were like like or like dorm mates and stuff were like 18 and I was 23. So I was like, further along in life. And
Right.
so um, it was cool to go and like shoot a show, come back to the dorm, edit, and have like my roommates and like the guys across the hall be like interested in what I just did and come and like comment and get excited about stuff. And so I think it was really fun to start in that place and have all of those people sort of like with me on the journey in the
Right.
beginning. Like, yeah, go, go, go. And like supporting it along the way. Like those first 2 years, like I technically didn't have a home. Like I stayed with my parents in between things, but I feel like I was either traveling or coming back and forth between my parents' house and like Southern California, and was always just like staying at friends' houses, like in their guest room, at their parents' house, on the couch. And that to me is like a form of like them saying like we support you and believe in you, like to just continue to like give me a place to stay and meals and rides to the airport and stuff like that. um so I definitely have like a handful of friends that were around in those early days that I think believed enough in like what I was trying to do.
Right.
And then yeah, I think like, maybe this part too for you. Like when I met my wife, I was probably 2 maybe 3 years in, like barely, right, into what I was doing. And ever since, like she's just always been an encouragement in this stuff. Like at no point has she ever been like, maybe you should quit, maybe you should stop. Like she's just always been supportive, always believed in it. um Usually has like positive kind warm things to say and honest things, when I need to hear those too, whether it's about something creative or something about me like trying to run my business or whatever. And, like she'll be honest, but has been like so encouraging and supportive of all of it.
Yeah. It's good to have a good wife like that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
key.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think for anybody having a supportive partner, like
Yeah.
who's like it doesn't support doesn't mean just going along. Like
Right.
that's not what I want from her. I want her to be real. And if this isn't working out or if I'm not creating at the same level or whatever, like I want her to be honest and tell me. Like she's the person I trust the most, in my life. So yeah, when you have somebody that will tell you the truth, like that's the best.
Yeah.
Like whether
Definitely.
it's what you want to hear or not, you know. And it's a bonus when they can deliver it in a way that doesn't make you cry. So
Well, on that note, number eight. Not everyone gets paid to create something they are passionate about, but where do you see the value in people still pursuing their passions?
where do I see like value? Like is this if you're not getting paid, why do it kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that there's still something satisfying about making something, whether it's making a photograph, making a shelf, making a song. Like, um, I think a lot of us, really are created to make stuff. And so, like, I've seen friends in bands that did the whole got signed and were on a small label and got to tour and play some things that were cool and sell records, and it didn't work out. And I feel like they could have just been like, all right, I failed, I'm done. But I've seen those people find a way to make it work for them
Mm.
where, yeah, they're not making real money off this at all, but they're not gone all the time away from their family.
Right.
It, um, but they're not like resigning themselves to be like, oh, I like to play music, so I'll just be a jam band at the winery this weekend, or I'll play covers at a wedding. It's like, no, they still like get together with their friends and like write new music, and every couple of years they take the time to record and like make a new record, and they'll play a handful of shows over, the course of a year or two or whatever. And going and seeing those shows sometimes to me is like better than any other show that I can go to, because you can just see that like they love it. They
Yeah.
love they love playing music with their friends, and it's reflected in what they're creating. And so it makes me super happy that like some of those people are still making music, or that I have friends that are no longer professional photographers that still take kick-ass photos just cuz,
Right.
you know. And I think like for me that's the thing I hope to hold on to, is like if I were to move away from photography completely at some point, like I hope that I still have it as an outlet to try to take like cool photos. And
Right.
like I mean, not that getting paid is a sign of anything, I guess, but like I would love it if like once a year I got paid to do like a thing. Like
Right.
just because like I still got it, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
But even if I didn't, like I'm not gonna just like resign myself to taking like crappy photos of my family. Like I'm still gonna try to take cool photos of them because I want cool photos. So
Right.
like I'll make them.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually use the example of my music. I don't get paid for it, but that's my soul fulfilling creative
Right.
outlet.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's still value like when you get to share with people.
Yeah.
It may not be monetary, but there are people that still connect with it.
Yeah.
And when you can share with people and they're like, "That was awesome. That song is great," or "That show that you guys played was so fun." Like
Yeah.
the fact that you created made that possible.
Think about like the people who just work, those dead end 9 to 5 jobs.
Right.
And it's like those are people I even like, you should be creating something
Right.
outside. please,
Absolutely.
like, because and a lot of times they are, that's how they get through their day,
Yeah.
because they have a passion for something. Number 9, how can you encourage others to live a life of creation and to see the value in the act of creation? I mean, we kind of were just talking about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I would just say, like, outside of the things that we have to do to just make it in life or survive, like, you should be trying to find something that brings you joy. And if it falls in the category of like something you can share with others, then you're creating, whether it's intentional art or if you're like, I really want to build, cool bookshelves, like sharing that with other people, like you can transform someone's room and the vibe in that space and everything like that. So I think, to me, it's important to try to help kids start that journey and to find ways to encourage it and support it long enough to where they can get to a place where they figure out what it is that they really enjoy making.
Right,
Because I think that gets like that either gets snuffed out too early or opportunities are not presented until too late in someone's journey.
right,
And so I think the more that we can expose younger people to things and be like, this is what digital art is like, this is what graphic design is like, this is what your drawings can do. Like, we were at a friend's house this weekend picking up our daughter from a sleepover, and her friend's older sister is in middle school at an arts school, and she was showing us her art journal and some of the stuff that she was creating in it. Like, my brain goes to, I could see that on merchandise, I could see that on like a cool like t-shirt design or whatever.
right,
She doesn't realize right now that like what she's doodling could lead to something.
right.
But once, she is introduced to that and shown the possibility, like, who knows what that can unlock for her.
Dude,
So,
open up one of those print on demand
right,
stores,
right. Absolutely. She could be doing that, soon,
Threadless, or
or Fourth Wall or whatever.
there's so many.
Totally. So I think, yeah, I think like seeing where, and again, I may not have thought like this years ago, but having kids, I think helps, like, to see that if they're exposed to things young, like, I didn't start playing guitar until I was like eighth, ninth grade.
Yeah, same.
My or our son is in third grade and he's in guitar lessons and he loves it. And I'm
Wow.
just like, what would my life look like if I started playing guitar young? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
We're just following his interest. Like, he's
Right.
interested in, and so we're trying to support that. But like, he's being exposed to it young,
Yeah.
which means he's going to see possibilities. And like for me, like, I grew up with parents that worked regular jobs. Like, they weren't artists. So I try to remind myself, like, my kids are growing up and their dad is an artist. So like, hopefully they realize they could grow up to be artists. Like, that's a possibility. They
Yeah.
just get to figure out what that looks like.
Right. Or they go, I don't want to do what dad did.
Yeah. They're like, dad was always struggling to make it. So this is a safe bet. I'm going to do that.
My dad was a music teacher for elementary
Yeah.
school.
Nice.
So music was always around, but
Oh,
he didn't teach me anything because he's like, I just taught a bunch of crazy elementary school kids. And
oh,
he's like, I want you to learn from someone else because because you will listen to them more.
same reason why our son is learning how to play guitar from someone else. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know enough to be a teacher, but I could teach him the basics. But I'm just like, it's going to be so much easier
Right.
learning from your dad.
Right. Yeah. And I think, but you're in the spot where you're like, okay, let's open up those possibilities. Like we have some like instruments. My kids are 6, almost 6 and almost 9.
Yep.
So we have stuff out and available and they can, pick up things, play around with it, but we haven't done any formal like lessons yet.
Oh, yeah.
But I could see them wanting to at some point. Because
Yeah,
there is a point where it's like, okay, you can play around all you want, but if you actually really want to play, you're gonna have to start learning some things.
right, right.
But
And
it's
different
like,
kids are ready for that at different ages, and
right. And
yeah,
I want it to be them wanting to,
totally,
because then, if you force it on them too early, they grow to hate it.
absolutely,
And it's like, let's just have things open, available. And,
yeah,
you know, if they ask questions more and more,
right,
let's,
yeah. Follow them where they go.
yeah. I've gone into many hobbies because of my boys.
Absolutely, that's awesome.
It's fun to have kids who let you be a kid again.
Absolutely, so fun.
Question 10, and it's the last one. How would you like to see yourself grow as a creator?
Um, I think that in my journey, the like next and or maybe last phase is moving into a place where I can use what I've done and what I've learned, good and bad, etc., to teach and mentor others. And I feel like that is, I don't know, like the final transformation, like to reach nirvana, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think like a couple years ago, I stepped away from like freelancing full time, took a full time job, and I feel like going back to something is going to look different. Like I don't want to freelance again. I don't think I'm interested in just being a photographer again. I think it's like I want to be part of a team and in a place where I can use what I've done to like impart wisdom
Right.
and share and encourage and challenge like all the things we've been talking about. Like I want to help be a part of that community and then like do the things that I wish that I had. Like I want to spend more time with other creatives, and I want to talk through things on the backside of a shoot and be like, what did you learn, what could have been better, like you know uh all the stuff that I think I was probably like secretly looking for all along the way, that I think really could have helped me grow way more in the beginning when I was more like malleable,
Yeah.
versus like coming across those things way later when I was like stubborn and set in my ways, and stuff. So I think that is my hope for what's next, is to be able to step into something where I have the opportunity to lead.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple people more around our age,
Yeah,
and it's kind of it's been a common subject or a thought is we're kind of to that point where we are starting to train our replacements,
absolutely.
and it's so as people who are you know in the forefront, or had people knew who we were, and we had moderate success and things. It's you either can be slightly bitter that you're phasing out, or we can grab onto that and go, I now get to share my life with others. And I
Yeah,
think, as parents, we've already started seeing that aspect in our lives with our kids. And so I think for us, it's kind of like we've already accepted, that we are now teachers.
yep,
So
yep,
now it's like, okay, now we can do that with our creations too.
right. Yeah, and like I know that not everyone's interested in like doing that kind of stuff. Like not everyone
Yeah.
wants to teach and not everyone wants to lead, and some people would rather just be done, or like I mean even on the flip, like I feel like I could still do it. Like I could
Right.
still get out and do photo and still compete and hold my own against people and like win jobs or what, like I could do that stuff, but that's just like not interesting to me anymore. Like
Right.
I think instead of like looking at it as like a training my replacement, I think I'm just like, what are the advantages I wish I had when I was starting out? And what's the support that I wish that I had back then? And
Right.
like, how can I be that for others, you know? And in the ways that like I did have people that did good and kind things for me, help me out, coach, give advice, like how can I continue to just like pay that forward as well?
Right.
So that just seems, I think as we grow older, like I've had fun experiences, but like I'm not worried about making more of those. As much as I'm like, I would rather share that with other people and be like, you go, like, have
Yeah.
experience. You go do this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how do I open that door for you?
Right.
So, yeah.